The story of Nikola Tesla begins not in a laboratory filled with buzzing machines and glowing coils, but in a small village surrounded by rolling hills, ancient churches, and the turbulent politics of the Balkans. It was the summer of 1856, a night when the sky itself seemed to foreshadow the destiny of the boy who was about to be born. In the village of Smiljan, part of the Austrian Empire at the time, lightning cracked violently across the heavens. Rain poured down, the wind howled, and in the midst of this furious storm, a child entered the world. His name would be Nikola Tesla. The midwife attending the birth looked at the storm and whispered nervously, "This child will either be a child of light or a child of darkness." His mother, Juka Mandik, without hesitation, replied, "No, he will be a child of light." It was as if fate itself had been declared in that moment. From his very first breath, Tesla's life was intertwined with symbolism, electricity, and a sense of destiny far greater than that of any ordinary man. Tesla's family background was as complex as the region he was born into. His father, Milutin Tesla, was an Orthodox priest, stern, intellectual, and deeply rooted in tradition. His mother, Juka, though not formally educated, was incredibly gifted. She had an extraordinary memory and could recite long passages of poetry by heart, and she designed and crafted mechanical tools and household devices with her own hands. If Milutin gave Tesla the discipline of thought and words, Juka gave him creativity and invention. From her, Tesla would inherit the spark of innovation that would later change the world. But Smiljan was not just a sleepy rural village. It sat at the crossroads of identities and empires. Today, Croatia and Serbia both lay claim to Tesla's legacy. Was he Croatian because he was born on land that is now Croatia? Or was he Serbian because his family was ethnically Serbian and his father was a Serbian Orthodox priest? Even in his own lifetime, Tesla's origins were a subject of debate, and after his death, that debate only intensified. To this day, statues of Tesla stand in both Belgrade and Zagreb, and both nations proudly call him their own. His birthplace, his identity, even his name became a symbol of national pride and contention. The irony is that Tesla himself never truly belonged to one country. He belonged to the world. As a child, Tesla exhibited signs that he was different. At just 3 years old, he astonished his family by memorizing long passages of Serbian epic poetry that his mother recited. He could visualize objects in his mind with stunning clarity, almost as if they were physically in front of him. This gift of mental visualization, what today might be described as eidetic imagination, would later become one of his greatest strengths as an inventor. While other engineers needed to build prototypes, Tesla could design and test entire machines entirely in his mind, seeing them spin, break, and improve all without lifting a single tool. But this extraordinary ability came with a burden. Tesla often experienced vivid hallucinations and flashes of light that overwhelmed his senses. He described them as blinding sparks of light that would appear before his eyes, sometimes accompanied by visions of things he could not explain. These episodes frightened him, but they also fueled his imagination. Where others might have dismissed such experiences as madness, Tesla embraced them, shaping them into visions of inventions that would one day astonish the world. One of Tesla's earliest fascinations was with the forces of nature. As a boy, he would watch the water wheels on the streams near Smiljan and imagine ways to harness their power. He built small devices powered by insects, capturing beetles and attaching them to contraptions he designed, letting the insects' movements power tiny wheels. He once tried to fly by jumping off the roof of a barn with an umbrella, nearly breaking his bones but never losing his curiosity. Every experiment, no matter how dangerous or unusual, was a step toward understanding the hidden forces that govern the universe. Tesla's childhood was also marked by tragedy. When he was 5 years old, his older brother, Dane, whom he idolized, died in a tragic accident while riding a horse. The loss shattered the family, and young Nikola was left in the shadow of grief. His father, who had placed high hopes on Dane, turned his stern gaze on Nikola, pressuring him to follow in his footsteps as a priest. But the boy resisted. He wanted something else, something undefined but immense. The death of his brother planted in him a deep loneliness, but also a relentless drive to prove himself worthy of life, a drive that would fuel his obsessive work in the years to come. By the time he entered school, Tesla was already outpacing his peers. He could perform complex mathematical calculations in his head with astonishing speed. His teachers accused him of cheating, unable to believe that a boy could solve equations without writing them down. He devoured books, reading everything from poetry and philosophy to physics and mechanics. At night, he would read by candlelight until his eyes ached, retreating into worlds of knowledge that seemed to whisper to him of greater possibilities. The villagers thought him odd, even otherworldly, but his mother recognized his brilliance and encouraged him. The cultural landscape around Tesla was equally influential. The Balkans were a patchwork of ethnicities, religions, and loyalties, all simmering under the control of the Austrian Empire. Identity was both a weapon and a shield. In one village, being Orthodox might mark you as Serbian. In another, Catholic faith tied you to Croatia. In that divided world, Tesla grew up with a sense of duality, neither entirely one thing nor the other. Perhaps that is why he would later say, "I am equally at home everywhere and nowhere." He belonged not to a flag or a nation, but to an idea of universal progress. Tesla's first brush with the raw power of electricity came when he was a teenager. He had read about experiments with static electricity and tried to recreate them. He would rub amber with fur and watch sparks dance between his fingers. The sight thrilled him, igniting a passion that would never leave. He once stood under a thunderstorm, stretching his arms out as lightning split the sky, declaring that he would one day understand the force that made the heavens roar. In that moment, he wasn't just a boy in Smiljan. He was a prophet of a future yet to come. But despite his brilliance, Tesla's path was far from smooth. His father insisted he become a priest, while Nikola longed to pursue engineering. Their conflict grew, but fate intervened when Tesla fell gravely ill with cholera as a teenager. For 9 months he battled the disease, lying weak and near death. At one point, when the family feared the worst, Nikola made his father promise. If he survived, he would be allowed to study engineering. Desperate to save his son, Milutin agreed. Against all odds, Tesla recovered, and true to his father's word, he was sent to pursue his dream. That dream would carry him far beyond the small village of Smiljan. It would take him to Graz, Prague, Budapest, Paris, and eventually across the ocean to the United States. But those early years, the stormy night of his birth, the mother who gave him creativity, the father who demanded discipline, the brother whose death scarred his soul, the Balkan world of shifting identities, shaped the man he would become. They forged within him a relentless ambition, a burning curiosity, and a vision not bound by borders. And so, the boy born in a lightning storm would grow into a man who sought to harness lightning itself. Nikola Tesla's journey had only just begun, but already the world seemed too small for his imagination. The Balkans may have claimed him, but his destiny lay far beyond. The streets of New York in the late 1880s were lit not only by the glow of gas lamps but also by the sparks of ambition. Nikola Tesla, a tall, almost ethereal figure with piercing eyes, walked through this bustling city with dreams larger than the skyscrapers that would one day dominate its skyline. For Tesla, America was not merely a new home. It was the stage upon which his boundless imagination could transform into reality. At first, Tesla found himself working under the shadow of Thomas Edison, the so-called Wizard of Menlo Park. Edison's laboratories were buzzing with the excitement of innovation, but also with the rigid practicality that defined Edison himself. Tesla, hired to improve Edison's direct current, DC systems, saw limitations everywhere. To him, DC was clumsy, inefficient, and incapable of powering the future. He envisioned something greater, alternating current, AC, a system that could deliver electricity across vast distances, illuminating cities and industries with unprecedented efficiency. Yet, Tesla's brilliance often clashed with Edison's stubborn pragmatism. Edison was a man of business, patents, and immediate results. Tesla was a dreamer, a visionary, often unconcerned with the tedious details of profit. The inevitable clash came when Tesla proposed his improvements and Edison dismissed them outright. The promise of a reward for his innovations turned into a bitter disappointment when Tesla discovered Edison had no intention of honoring it. Betrayed and disillusioned, Tesla walked away. For weeks, Tesla's life spiraled downward. He labored as a ditch digger, his genius wasted in the grime of manual work. At times, he wondered if the world was ready for what he had to offer. But fortune often favors those who refuse to abandon their vision. In 1887, Tesla found himself in the company of men who recognized his potential, investors who saw the gleam in his eyes and believed in the grandeur of his ideas. With their backing, Tesla established his own laboratory in Manhattan, a place where science and imagination merged into breathtaking reality. It was there that Tesla unveiled the beauty of alternating current. His AC motors and transformers were not only efficient but elegant in their design, harnessing the laws of physics with an artistry that was unmistakably his own. Word of his innovation spread quickly, and soon he caught the attention of George Westinghouse, an industrialist with both the resources and the vision to challenge Edison's electrical empire. Thus began what history remembers as the War of the Currents. On one side stood Edison, entrenched in his DC system, backed by influence, money, and a fierce determination to protect his legacy. On the other stood Tesla, allied with Westinghouse, armed with a technology that promised to revolutionize the very foundation of modern civilization. The battle was not merely scientific. It was brutal, public, and deeply personal. Edison launched smear campaigns, claiming AC was dangerous, even deadly. He staged gruesome demonstrations, electrocuting animals to prove his point. In one infamous display, he supported the development of the electric chair, powered by AC, as a way to tarnish Tesla's system in the eyes of the public. But Tesla remained undeterred. He believed in the power of AC, not just as a technological improvement but as a gift to humanity. At the 1893 World's Fair in Chicago, the world finally witnessed the triumph of his vision. Tesla and Westinghouse lit up the fairgrounds with AC power, a dazzling spectacle of light and innovation that silenced the critics and forever changed the future of electricity. Millions gazed in awe as the night sky glowed brighter than ever before, all thanks to Tesla's genius. The world had entered a new era, and Tesla stood at the center of it. Yet even amid victory, Tesla's story was never one of simple triumph. His laboratory became a place of wonder, filled with experiments that seemed to defy the laws of nature. He created devices that harnessed wireless energy, envisioned communication across oceans, and even dreamed of tapping into the very forces of the Earth itself. His ideas, so advanced for their time, bordered on the unbelievable. Journalists began to describe him as a wizard, a man whose inventions blurred the line between science and magic. But while Tesla's mind soared into the future, his financial footing remained fragile. Westinghouse, though supportive, faced his own battles, and the business world often lacked the patience for Tesla's grand, time-consuming visions. Investors wanted quick returns, tangible profits, not blueprints of machines that sounded more like science fiction than reality. Tesla, however, could not compromise his imagination. His ambitions stretched far beyond the horizon of practicality. He envisioned a world where electricity was free, transmitted wirelessly through the air, available to every human being without cost. He built towering coils that shot lightning into the sky, experiments that terrified onlookers yet revealed glimpses of a future still waiting to be born. In these years, Tesla became both a legend and a mystery. His eccentric habits fascinated the public. His obsession with cleanliness, his avoidance of physical contact, his ritualistic daily routines. To some, he seemed almost otherworldly, a man more at home among the stars than on Earth. But behind the quirks was a mind ceaselessly at work, unraveling the secrets of the universe with a determination that bordered on the divine. The press loved him, and so did the crowds. He could command a room with nothing more than a demonstration of his machines, his tall frame and sharp gaze adding to the aura of mystery. When he produced arcs of electricity with his coils, illuminating bulbs held in his hands without wires, the audience gasped in astonishment. To them, Tesla was not just an inventor, he was a prophet of the future. Yet fame did not shield him from the challenges that lay ahead. As Tesla's star rose, so too did the forces of opposition. Edison never forgave him for the humiliation of the World's Fair. Other industrialists saw Tesla's ideas as threats to their monopolies. Even allies sometimes turned into obstacles, as business interests clashed with Tesla's insistence on pursuing his dream of limitless, free energy. Despite these struggles, Tesla pressed on. His contributions to science and technology during this period were staggering. He pioneered advancements in radio, robotics, remote control, and X-ray imaging. His notebooks overflowed with sketches of machines that would not be built until decades later. Every invention seemed to push the boundaries of what was possible, hinting at a world that humanity was not yet ready to accept. But perhaps the most striking element of Tesla's rise was not just his inventions, but the philosophy behind them. Unlike many of his contemporaries, Tesla was not driven solely by profit. He saw himself as a servant of humanity, a man entrusted with gifts that were meant to elevate civilization. His obsession was not wealth but progress, not comfort but discovery. And yet, this very idealism would prove to be both his greatest strength and his deepest vulnerability. For in a world dominated by competition, greed, and power, Tesla's vision of a utopia fueled by free energy stood as a direct challenge to those who thrived on scarcity and control. The stage was set for a lifetime of brilliance and conflict. Tesla, the visionary genius, had risen from obscurity to reshape the modern world. But his journey was far from over. Ahead lay both his most dazzling triumphs and his most crushing defeats. His life would become a story not only of invention but of resilience, a battle between dreams and reality that would test the very limits of human imagination. As Tesla stood at the peak of his early career, the lights of his alternating current illuminating cities across the United States, one question lingered in the shadows. Could a man so devoted to the future survive in a world so anchored in the present? The answer would unfold in the years to come, as his genius brought him face to face with both unimaginable success and devastating isolation. The rivalry surrounding Nikola Tesla's legacy did not begin during his lifetime but erupted decades after his death. As the Balkans fractured into competing nationalisms, Tesla's memory became a symbolic weapon. Serbia claimed him as a Serb by blood. Croatians argued that he was born in their land, and both sides painted him as proof of their nation's contribution to world civilization. Yet what made this debate so powerful was not just Tesla's birthplace or his ancestry. It was the fact that his genius had changed the world in ways so profound that owning his legacy meant claiming a piece of modernity itself. To understand why his name carries such weight, one must look beyond the politics and into the sheer scale of Tesla's inventions. His work with alternating current, AC electricity, for example, was not just a scientific breakthrough. It was the foundation of the modern electrical grid. In the late 19th century, most cities used direct current, DC, championed by Thomas Edison. DC could only travel short distances and required power stations to be close to consumers. Tesla's AC system, on the other hand, could transmit electricity over vast distances, efficiently and cheaply. When George Westinghouse backed Tesla's vision, the so-called War of the Currents erupted, a battle not only of technologies but of egos and reputations. Tesla's triumph came dramatically at the 1893 Chicago World's Fair, where his AC system illuminated the entire exposition, dazzling millions. It was a public victory that cemented AC as the standard across the world. Imagine, for a moment, a dark city skyline suddenly blazing with electric light, powered not by Edison's vision but by Tesla's. From that moment, modern life, our cities, industries, and homes would never be the same. And this, in many ways, is why both Serbia and Croatia fight so passionately over his memory. He is not just a national hero, but a global one. But Tesla's ambitions reached far beyond electricity. His experiments with wireless transmission of energy were decades ahead of their time. In the early 1900s, he built the Wardenclyffe Tower on Long Island, an enormous structure designed to beam wireless power across the globe. The vision was breathtaking. Free, unlimited energy flowing through the air, available to all humanity. Tesla believed he could connect continents without cables, light ships at sea without wires, and even transmit messages and images across oceans. He was, in essence, envisioning a world of wireless internet and global communications, nearly a century before such things became reality. Yet Tesla's dreams often clashed with financial reality. Wardenclyffe collapsed when his investors pulled out, skeptical of such an ambitious scheme. One of his backers, the financier J.P. Morgan, famously withdrew support, asking, "If anyone can draw on the power, where do we put the meter?" In that question lies the tragedy of Tesla's life. He was a visionary whose inventions often threatened the very industries that could have made him rich. He was never motivated by profit but by the belief that science should serve humanity. As Tesla's fortunes declined, his ideas grew even bolder. He spoke of death rays that could make wars obsolete, of machines that could tap the energy of the Earth itself, and of harnessing cosmic forces. Some of these concepts were grounded in scientific principles, while others seemed to cross into the realm of fantasy. Newspapers of the time portrayed him as a mad genius, a man torn between brilliance and eccentricity. But his reputation as a dreamer only added to the myth of Tesla, an image that would grow larger after his death. What makes Tesla's story even more compelling is how much he anticipated technologies that define the modern world. He spoke of wireless communication long before radio was common, of global energy systems before the age of satellites, and of automation before the digital revolution. It is little wonder that today, companies, inventors, and even science fiction writers draw inspiration from him. Elon Musk's electric car company, for example, bears Tesla's name as a tribute, symbolizing both innovation and the pursuit of a cleaner future. For Croatia, Tesla is celebrated as a native son of Smiljan, where his childhood home has been transformed into a memorial center. For Serbia, he is immortalized in Belgrade, where an entire museum is dedicated to his life's work, holding thousands of his papers and personal belongings. Both nations build statues, issue coins, and host events in his honor. Yet the irony is that Tesla himself rejected nationalism. He often described himself as a citizen of the world, belonging not to one people or country but to humanity. This universalist philosophy, however, has not stopped his name from being pulled into Balkan rivalries. After the breakup of Yugoslavia in the 1990s, Tesla's memory became a cultural battlefield. Croatia placed his portrait on its currency, the kuna, in the 1990s, an act that many in Serbia viewed as a symbolic claim to Tesla's identity. More recently, the European Union announced that Tesla would appear on future Croatian euro coins, sparking outrage in Belgrade. Serbian officials declared that Tesla was the greatest Serb who ever lived and accused Croatia of stealing his heritage. But perhaps the most striking aspect of this dispute is that Tesla himself might have laughed at it. He had no interest in politics, let alone national squabbles. His writings show disdain for the small-mindedness of ethnic divisions, and he spoke often of building a future that transcended borders. For him, science was the only true universal language, and humanity's progress depended on cooperation, not division. Still, the symbolism of Tesla in the Balkans cannot be dismissed. In societies scarred by war and fragmentation, clinging to heroes becomes a way of asserting identity and pride. Tesla, with his unparalleled genius, offers both Croats and Serbs a story of brilliance that reflects well on their people. And so, his legacy continues to be contested, not because of who he was, but because of what he represents. The hope that greatness, even if born in conflict, can belong to us all. As his legend grows in popular culture, Tesla's image has become larger than life. He is portrayed not only as an inventor but as a prophet of the modern age, a man whose imagination could see beyond the horizons of his time. Hollywood films, novels, and countless documentaries have turned him into a figure of almost mythical stature. The rivalry over his origins may continue, but in truth, Tesla belongs to a much wider story, the story of how human creativity can shape the destiny of civilization. This ultimately is the irony. While Balkan nations argue over who owns Tesla's memory, the world has already claimed him. He is remembered not as a Croat or a Serb, but as the man who lit the planet, dreamed of wireless power, and envisioned a future of boundless energy and communication. And in that sense, His true legacy is not in coins, statues, or passports. It is in the glowing lights of every city, the hum of every machine, and the invisible waves that carry our voices across the globe. Nikola Tesla had by this point transcended national identity, but that did not mean the world around him stopped trying to claim him. In fact, as his inventions spread across continents, the debate over who he belonged to only grew louder. It was no longer just Serbia or Croatia. It became a question of ownership for nations, ideologies, and even future visions of humanity. But Tesla himself seemed to float above these disputes, caught in the paradox of being at once deeply proud of his roots and at the same time entirely detached from the notion of borders. This contradiction becomes clearer when we study his later years, when his fame had both peaked and begun to decline. Tesla lived in the United States, working tirelessly on projects that often seemed far too advanced for his era. Wireless power transmission, particle beam weapons, global communication systems, all were ideas that positioned him as a visionary of the 20th century and beyond. And yet, while American newspapers alternately celebrated and ridiculed him, across the Atlantic, in the Balkans, he was treated almost as a mythical figure. In Belgrade, Tesla was hailed as a Serbian genius who embodied the pride of an entire people. Serbian intellectuals wrote about him as if he were a cultural hero, someone who had taken Serbian brilliance to the world stage. In Zagreb, however, Croatians were equally passionate, claiming Tesla as their own. After all, he had been born in Smiljan, a village within modern Croatian territory. For them, Tesla was proof that their soil, their land, had given birth to greatness. The irony is that both narratives ignored what Tesla himself consistently said about identity. He often described himself as equally at home in different cultures, a man of Serbian heritage, raised in a Croatian land, who chose to dedicate his life to the United States and humanity as a whole. In his mind, invention was not a matter of borders but of imagination. And yet, even today, debates rage between Serbs and Croats over who can truly lay claim to Tesla's legacy. But let us pause and return to Tesla's mindset in these crucial years. By the 1920s and 30s, he was often alone in New York, staying in hotels, living more in his ideas than in the world around him. He would walk the streets, feeding pigeons, and retreat to his notebooks where he mapped out blueprints of technologies that would only become reality decades later. To many, he seemed eccentric, a man lost in his own visions. But to those who understood the scope of his mind, Tesla was not eccentric. He was centuries ahead. And this is where the battle for his image intensified. Serbian politicians saw an opportunity. They invited Tesla to Belgrade in 1892, where he was received as a national hero. Crowds filled the streets, newspapers celebrated him as a son of Serbia, and speeches proclaimed his name as a symbol of Serbian progress and genius. Tesla himself, deeply moved, spoke in Serbian, thanking the people for their love. For Serbia, this moment sealed his place as one of their own. But on the other side, Croatian intellectuals argued that Tesla's birthplace mattered more than anything. He had been born in Lika, in the small village of Smiljan, which was then part of the Austrian Empire but today lies firmly within Croatia's borders. For them, Tesla was a child of Croatian land, shaped by the environment, the landscapes, and the cultural fabric of the region. Even if his parents were Serbian, even if his identity was complex, the geography of his birth made him Croatian. This tug-of-war did not fade after his death. It only grew stronger. In the 20th century, as Yugoslavia tried to create a shared identity, Tesla became one of the few figures that both Croats and Serbs could agree to celebrate, albeit each for their own reasons. Yugoslavia built monuments, museums, and school programs dedicated to him. He became the face of innovation in a country torn between ethnic divisions. But even in this attempt at unity, the old question never disappeared. Was he really Serbian or really Croatian? If Tesla had been alive to hear this argument, he might have laughed. He once said, "The gift of mental power comes from God, divine being, and if we concentrate our minds on that truth, we become in tune with this great power." His belief was that invention, creativity, and human progress came not from borders but from the cosmos itself. He saw himself as a servant of humanity, not of a nation. And yet, history rarely lets go so easily. Consider how different the world might have been had Tesla chosen to root his identity more firmly in one nation. Would Serbia have built an even stronger scientific legacy around him? Would Croatia have elevated his name as a cornerstone of its national identity? Would America, where he spent most of his life, have treated him with more respect had he been less international and more nationalistic? These questions linger because Tesla existed in a liminal space claimed by all, owned by none. But perhaps that is precisely why he remains so fascinating today. His life was a mirror of the Balkans themselves, complex, fractured, yet deeply interconnected. He was a man who carried within him the contradictions of history: Serbian blood, Croatian soil, and an American destiny. And beyond all of that, a vision that belonged to no single place but to the entire world. The narrative of Tesla's later life is bittersweet. Despite his genius, he struggled financially, often moving from hotel to hotel, relying on the generosity of friends and admirers. While he continued to work on groundbreaking theories, the world began to forget him. The spotlight shifted to Edison, Marconi, and others who not only invented but also mastered the art of business. Tesla, in contrast, was uninterested in money. He cared only for discovery. And so, as he aged, the debate about who he belonged to became almost ironic. Here was a man who had given electricity to the world, who had dreamed of powering entire cities wirelessly, who had envisioned radar and modern communication systems. And yet, he died alone in a hotel room in New York, almost penniless. His funeral, however, told a different story. Thousands attended. Messages poured in from leaders around the world. And in the Balkans, both Serbia and Croatia claimed him once more as their own, as if even in death, his identity was still contested ground. The truth is that Tesla belonged to all of them and none of them. He was Serbian in heritage, Croatian in birth, American in citizenship, and universal in vision. The very fact that nations still argue about him proves the depth of his importance. He was not just a man, he was a symbol of genius that cannot be confined, of ideas that transcend boundaries, of the eternal struggle to define identity in a divided world. As we move toward the final chapter of Tesla's story, one question remains. If his legacy still sparks debates today, decades after his death, perhaps the real answer is that Nikola Tesla cannot be owned. Perhaps his true nationality is not Serbian, not Croatian, not American, but human itself. Even decades after his death, Nikola Tesla's name sparks debates that are not just about science but about identity, pride, and history itself. The genius who dreamed of lighting the world without wires, who imagined transmitting information instantly across oceans, and who foresaw machines flying without pilots, remains at the heart of a cultural tug-of-war between Croatia and Serbia. But beyond national borders, Tesla has become a symbol of something even greater: the human drive to imagine the impossible. In Croatia, Tesla's childhood village of Smiljan has been transformed into a memorial site, a place where visitors walk through reconstructed homes and interactive museums. Children play with Tesla coils, sending arcs of electricity into the air, as if channeling the spirit of the man who once said, "The present is theirs. The future, for which I really worked, is mine." For Croatians, Tesla represents the brilliance that sprouted from their soil. His early years in their countryside are remembered as the foundation of his creative mind. To them, he is a Croatian-born genius whose roots shaped his vision. In Serbia, however, Tesla's identity is celebrated differently. Belgrade proudly houses the Nikola Tesla Museum, where his personal belongings, letters, and inventions are displayed. Visitors from around the world come to witness his ashes preserved in a glowing spherical urn. For Serbs, Tesla is not just a historical figure. He is a national hero, a Serbian Orthodox son who carried their culture across the ocean to America. Every commemoration, every documentary, every celebration of his birthday in Serbia is infused with this sense of belonging. Yet, Tesla himself might have found this battle for ownership puzzling. He was born in a multi-ethnic empire, raised in a Serbian Orthodox family, in what is today Croatia. His identity was fluid, molded not by borders but by ideas. He often described himself as a citizen of the world, uninterested in the confines of nationalism. For him, discovery transcended politics. His true allegiance was to science, to progress, to the belief that one mind could lift humanity forward. Still, history rarely allows such simplicity. Political tensions in the Balkans have long amplified disputes over culture and legacy. In times of conflict, Tesla's heritage has been weaponized, claimed as proof of national superiority, used to inspire pride, and even wielded in propaganda. This battle of memory, stretching across generations, shows that Tesla's influence is not only scientific but also deeply symbolic. But what is perhaps most fascinating is how Tesla's legacy extends far beyond the Balkans. In the United States, he is remembered as the brilliant but misunderstood inventor who clashed with Thomas Edison in the so-called War of Currents. In popular culture, his image has been mythologized, appearing in films, novels, and even video games. To Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, Tesla embodies the daring spirit of innovation. So much so that Elon Musk named one of the world's most futuristic car companies after him. This global adoption of Tesla's name speaks to something larger: the idea that genius cannot be contained by geography. While nations argue over his birthplace, the world sees him as a universal figure. His story transcends disputes of identity, reminding us that knowledge belongs to humanity, not to borders. Yet there is an irony here. For all his brilliance, Tesla died nearly penniless in a New York hotel room, largely forgotten by the world he helped transform. His dreams of free wireless energy were never realized. His inventions, some decades ahead of their time, gathered dust as industries turned to more practical or profitable ideas. The man who once envisioned a world connected by invisible waves left this life surrounded not by admirers but by shadows. And yet, history has a way of correcting itself. Today, Tesla's name shines brighter than ever. His work inspires engineers developing renewable energy, wireless technologies, and artificial intelligence. His quotes circulate across the internet, sparking curiosity in younger generations. His statues stand proudly in Belgrade, Zagreb, New York, and even outside Niagara Falls, where his hydroelectric designs first turned water into power for millions. So, the question lingers: who does Tesla belong to? The answer may be both simpler and more profound than the arguments suggest. He belongs to all of us, to Croatia, to Serbia, to America, but also to every student who dreams of building something impossible, every inventor who dares to imagine beyond the limits, and every thinker who believes that ideas can outlast borders and lifetimes. Tesla's story, then, is not only about invention. It is about how one man, born in a small Balkan village, managed to inspire the entire globe. It is about how science can rise above politics, even if only in hindsight. And it is about how the future he dreamed of, a world powered by clean, boundless energy, still remains a goal humanity strives toward. As we reflect on his contested identity, perhaps the greatest tribute we can give Tesla is not to argue over his birthplace but to continue his mission. To push the limits of what is possible. To dream, as he dreamed, of a world where progress is shared and knowledge is free. Because while nations can fight over heritage, genius is universal. And Tesla, more than anyone, understood that. Now let me leave you with this: what if the true revolution Tesla envisioned, the one powered not just by electricity but by the unshackled imagination of humankind, is still ahead of us? And if so, are we ready to finally bring it to life?